Hello, and welcome to The Caregiver's Daughter. I'm your host, Danielle, and today's episode is special because I'm sitting down with my sister, Kaitlyn, who actually worked for AllMed back when I was a per diem caregiver in facilities, not the administrator. And I'm here in Georgia just for the weekend visiting, and somehow we ended up talking about the fact that you used to work for AllMed. It's kind of wild sitting here with you now, knowing you were part of the company before it became the thing that I pour my heart, my soul into every single day. I thought it'd be very special to sit down together and talk about what caregiving looked like back then to you and what boundaries look like for you. Welcome to the show, Kaitlyn.
Thanks for having me.
Just to start, I'd love to know how it was that you came about working for AllMed. I know I started working here before you did, so you must have heard about it from me, but I'm hoping that's the case anyway. But I don't quite remember how you learned about home care since I wasn't doing home care at the time.
Your husband, Nate, was actually the one who first told me about private care. He explained that it was different from facilities, and I remember asking him if I needed any certifications. He told me that you didn't because home care plays by different rules. That's really how I found out about how the position even existed.
I see. Yeah, and a lot has changed since then in home care now. Back when you had started, certifications weren't required for private home care the way that they are now. Caregivers now all have to be certified and documented in ways that didn't exist back then. I do know that you were looking for quick work to get into that just needed some training. What do you do for work right now that you can tell our caregivers about?
So in December of 2022, I started working for the state of Georgia as an analyst. It's an office-based role, and I primarily focus on investigations. I worked at AllMed for a few months after college while I was waiting for the application process for my current job to go through. It took a while, so AllMed filled that gap for me.
I know there are limits to what you can say, just like we're careful with client privacy. But since we're chatting at breakfast this morning about your time with AllMed, can you talk a little bit at a high level about the client that you had and what the experience was like for you?
Yeah, so I really appreciated my time with my client because he taught me so much about the world, about communication, and about how to talk to different kinds of people. He had wonderful hobbies that he loved to share, and hearing him talk about them all the time was really special. He also had a wonderful wife, and through him, I learned about relationships and life. More than anything, I learned how to navigate different personalities because he had a few. When I first started, I struggled with boundaries, especially because we talked so much. But over time, I realized how important boundaries are when you're working with a client, especially someone who has a lot of emotions as they get older. So learning how to communicate with him actually helped me understand him better. And that understanding made it easier to set healthy boundaries.
I've talked on The Caregiver's Daughter before about the idea of dropping it at the door. How, as caregivers, we sometimes share too much of our personal lives. That can open the gate to a two-way emotional exchange. It's not always healthy. One of the most important things that we can do with a client is set boundaries. Those boundaries help prevent burnout because otherwise we pick up their burdens, carry them out the door with us. It's important that we drop them on the floor before walking into our own homes, but that can be extremely difficult and often leads to burnout. The goal is to leave work at work, find healthy places to release that emotional weight, and when we walk back in, we can feel refreshed and present again. Where did you find a place to put your frustrations from a heavy job so that you could go back in the next day with a smile, even on the rough days?
Yeah. I was actually really lucky because he had such a wonderful family who wanted him to stay involved and active. Once I got to know him and what he enjoyed, I realized how important it was for him to get out of the house. He loved sailboats. So one day I just asked him, "Would you like to go on the mailboat?" And he absolutely loved that idea. I got there earlier than usual that morning and we went together. And after that, I started asking more questions like, is there anything else you'd like to do? What would you like for dinner? What would you like me to cook? Just really learning what mattered to him. He didn't want to be cooped up at home. And honestly, that's where a lot of the emotions came from, being stuck, reminiscing about things he used to do. What I learned is that with enough coordination, you can do almost anything in a wheelchair. So we did the things he loved. We went places, drove around, talked, and got him out of the house. And in a way, it helped me too, getting that fresh air. I was taking breaths, sharing those quiet moments, instead of just sitting there in heaviness.
Thank you so much for sharing this with me today. And thank you for joining me on The Caregiver's Daughter. I really appreciate your honesty and how real you've been about your experience. Caregiving isn't always dazzling or easy, but it does take a big heart, and I know you have that.
Thanks for having me.
Well, thanks for joining us on The Caregiver's Daughter. Until next time, care for others the way you care for yourself.